Hello, fellow clear-mind enjoyers. Today I want to showcase Crystrons. I know I'm a bit late to the party, but hey, better late than never, right? I imagine not everyone is familiar with Crystrons, since the deck was considered extremely weak before the new support arrived. But now, it's a legitimate Tier 1 meta contender. At the time I'm writing this, Tsuku the GOAT actually took first place using Crystrons. I'll show you his list later, but I'll be explaining things based on my own version, which I feel much more comfortable with. So, what exactly are Crystrons? Crystron is a water machine-based synchro archetype that's built around synchro summoning during the opponent's turn. The deck is very graveyard-focused and synergizes well with cards that can send monsters to the grave. Once it's properly set up, Crystrons offer one of the best grind games in all of Master Duel. Before diving into the actual deck profile, I want to briefly go over a few engines that work well with Crystrons. The first engine I want to mention is the Terratop engine. It's small, simple, and efficient. It consists of 3 copies of Speedroid Terratop, 1 Teigtenborg, and 1 Cherubini, Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss. The plan is pretty straightforward: summon Terratop, bring out Cherubini, send Smiger to the graveyard, and combo from there. The beauty of this engine is that it doesn't require your normal summon, which makes it perfect for more pure Crystron builds. Next up is the Horus engine, which is a bit more involved. It includes 3 Imp-City, 1 Happy, 2 King's Sarcophagus, Photon Lord, and Zombie Vampire. The goal here is to set up rank 8 plays. You use Zombie Vampire to mill a Crystron card and Photon Lord to establish some protection in case we have access to a combo already. The discard cost for Sarcophagus isn't too much of an issue because many Crystron cards float nicely. That said, this engine does have some problems. Ash Blossom on Imp-City is a very bad trade for us, and drawing into Sarcophagus or Happy can be pretty bricky because Happy is a hard brick and for Sarcophagus we need 2 discards. That brings me to what I believe is the best engine for Crystrons, the Millennium engine. This engine includes 3 Sanjinjin, 1 to 3 Golem, 1 Temple, 1 Doom Dragon, Photon Lord, and Zombie Vampire. So why is Millennium better than Horus? Simple, it does the same job, but with fewer bricks. The only mildly awkward draw is Temple, and even then, you're only missing out on 1 body on the board, which usually doesn't matter much. To get a Crystron name into the graveyard, we use Doom Dragon summoning condition. On top of it, Doom Dragon also happens to be an excellent going second card. Another major advantage of the Millennium engine is its OTK potential. Within just 3 summons, you can dish out 7,750 damage and removal option using Doom Dragon. The 4th summon is usually enough to push for game, ideally with a monster that has more than 250 ATK. This way, you avoid getting hit by Nibiru. The only downside is that losing 4,000 LP for Sanjinjin and Golem can hurt in certain scenarios, especially if your opponent prevents your combo with something like Fuel Loss and you're left exposed. There are also a few honorable mentions when it comes to engines, though they're noticeably less optimal. The Kashtira engine is too limited in Master Duel. The Azamina engine doesn't really synergize with Crystrons. The Adventure engine is far too bricky. And the Fiendsmith engine, while powerful, takes up way too much space in the extra deck to be worth running. So now that we've gone over the main engines that can be played with Crystrons, let's talk about the deck profile itself. We're kicking things off with the Crystron engine, and the first card I want to showcase is Tristaros. This is hands down the best normal summon in the deck. Even though it doesn't start a combo on its own, it applies solid pressure and provides protection. If your opponent activates a card effect, Tristaros can summon a monster from the deck, then immediately perform a synchro summon using the summoned monster. But be careful, if a synchro summon isn't possible on resolution, the effect fizzles out, so always plan ahead. In the graveyard, Tristaros can banish itself to destroy a synchro monster you control, then summon 2 Crystron monsters from the deck. But watch out, this effect locks you into machine monsters for the rest of the turn. Next up is Smiger. He's mainly relevant for his graveyard effect, letting you search for a Crystron spell or trap. Ideally, you want to get him into the grave without using your normal summon. But if you do need to normal summon him, a card like Clockwork Knight helps send him to the GY and keep your plays going. Then we have Thystavern, another graveyard floater. By banishing him from the GY, you can search for a Crystron monster, making him a great extender for your combos. Moving on, we've got Sulfador. This guy's a real powerhouse. You can use his effect from hand or graveyard by discarding a Crystron card. He special summons himself, then destroys one of your own cards, which is usually himself. Once destroyed, he special summons a Crystron from the deck, helping set up your next play. That brings us to Sulfador's best friend, Sulfador. When summoned, he mills 2 Crystron cards into the GY. He can also special summon himself by destroying a Crystron card on the field, which synergizes well with cards like Millennium, since you can destroy something set by Temple. But note, if you summon Sulfador this way, you're locked into machines, which can limit access to key cards like Barone, SP, or Sprite Elf. That's why we usually prefer to summon him through other effects like Sulfador's. One of the most common targets for Sulfador to destroy is our next card, Crystron Inclusion. On activation, Inclusion searches for any Crystron card, super flexible and super strong. And once it's in the graveyard, it can revive a Crystron monster by banishing itself. It also has a third effect that's mostly irrelevant. Crystron monsters can't be destroyed by battle once per turn, which is neat but rarely comes up. Now the final Crystron card we run is Crystron Cluster. This card is incredible against threats like Drill Beam, Mirror Jade or SP Little Knight. Its first effect prevents Crystron cards, including itself, from being banished, and its second effect lets you pop a card by shuffling a Crystron back into the deck. This gives you a solid resource loop and helps maintain board control. Now, let's take a closer look at the Millennium engine, which we touched on earlier. Starting off with Sanjinjin, it can place itself from the hand to your spelled trap zone as a continuous spell. Then, by paying 2000 LP, it special summons itself and searches for a Millennium monster, which is always going to be the Millennium Golem. The Golem works similarly. He also sets himself from hand, pays 2000 LP to summon, and then searches for Wedju Temple. Wedju Temple is where the synergy really kicks in. It sets 1 card from your hand and 1 Millennium card from the deck to the spell's trap zone. This setup enables your Doomed Dragon play and helps establish control pieces early. For the non-engine lineup, we are running a fairly standard package with 2 Max C, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, a single copy of Nibiru, the primal being, 2 Called by the Grave and 1 Crossout Designator to help counter opposing hand traps and key disruptions. Then we have 3 Infinite Impermanence, which is just too good not to run. As a personal tech, I really like Droll and Lockbird in this deck. It plays surprisingly well under its own Droll, so even using it on yourself after a Max C is sometimes a valid move. On top of that, Droll is simply one of the best hand traps in the format right now. Lastly, I've added Forbidden Droplet to strengthen the deck's ability to go second. While some top Crystron lists, like Tsuku's, don't run Droplet, I think it's a strong choice for ranked ladder play, where you face a wider variety of decks. Now with the main deck covered, let's move on to the extra deck. We're only running 1 fusion, and that's Doomed Dragon. We summon it with the help of Wedju Temple, by sending 2 monster cards that are currently in our back row to the graveyard. Doomed Dragon is especially strong going second, helping us crack boards and apply pressure immediately. Starting the Synchro lineup with Excel Synchron, this card is often considered a flex spot in many lists. But in my opinion, if you're not running Citri, then Excel Synchron becomes mandatory to give your plays a higher ceiling. Since we're not playing any other Synchron monsters, we can't modulate its level, but that's fine. We almost always summon Excel Synchron on the opponent's turn to go into Baronne de Fleur. You might wonder, why not just summon Baronne directly? The answer is simple. Tristaros can only summon machine-type monsters, so Excel is our workaround. Next is Samurai Destroyer. This card acts as our Nibiru coverage. If Samurai Destroyer leaves the field due to an opponent's card effect, it can revive a machine monster from the grave, including itself. This means, for example, if Tristaros chains to a Nibiru activation and brings out Samurai Destroyer, it will get tribute, but then it revives itself. This sequence also enables Tristaros' graveyard effect, letting us summon 2 Crystron monsters from the deck. Then we have Fa Dawn Dragster, a simple yet effective machine synchro that gives us a spell trap negate. It has neat synergy with Clockwork Knight, which we'll cover later. Next is the new Crystron Synchro, Elescalitas. Usually played as a 2 though it's possible to cut it to 1 if you really need the extra deck space. On Synchro Summon, it adds a Crystron card from your graveyard or banished zone to your hand. Then, if it's destroyed, it special summons a Crystron from grave or banishment. This works great with Tristaros or Sulfador, but be careful, it must be Synchro Summoned to activate either effect, so reviving it through inclusion won't trigger anything. We also run Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon. Its primary purpose is to revive Tristaros from the grave, allowing access to Barone, Sprite Elf, or SP Little Knight. Then it can be destroyed by Tristaros to continue combos. While it's technically a flex spot, I consider it mandatory in any Millennium build. The other Crystron Synchro we run is Querian Gandrax. On summon, it banishes up to 3 monsters from your opponent's field or graveyard. If it's destroyed, it revives one of the banished monsters, including your opponent's. This card usually shines on turn 2 or 3, while some players prefer summoning it during the opponent's turn. I find that Barone is usually the stronger play in those situations. Speaking of which, Barone de Fleur is the last synchro. You already know her, she's the standard Omninegate and removal boss monster. Now let's talk about XYZ monsters. We play Cyber Dragon Nova and Cyber Dragon Infinity. Since the deck has a good number of level 5 machine monsters, it's easy to make Nova, then overlay into Infinity. Infinity gives us an Omni Negate and can absorb attack position monsters, which is incredibly powerful. The other XYZ is Zombie Vampire. By detaching a material, it mills 4 cards from both decks, then special summons one of the milled cards. It adds consistency to the Millennium engine, making it a potential combo starter, albeit with some RNG. The key hits we're aiming for are Tristaros, Smiger, Feistvern, and Sulfador. With normal deck thinning from the Millennium line, Sanjinjin gets Golem, Golem gets Temple, Temple sets a card, you're effectively down to 32 cards, giving you about an 80% chance to mill into a combo starter, which is pretty reasonable. Let's cover the Link monsters now. We start with Clockwork Knight, the new Link one. It's mostly used to link off Smiger to begin plays. But it also has some cool tech interactions. It can tribute another machine to revive a machine with 1000 ATK or less, which includes FA Dragster. Additionally, it can send a continuous spell to the grave to add Clockwork Knight to hand, a handy way to disrupt Fiendsmith decks by turning their monsters into machines. Next is Sprite Elf. Since our main tuner is level 2, Elf fits perfectly. While it's a flex spot, I think it's very important in lists that don't run Citri, helping maintain a mid-range resource loop with Tristaros. The target protection comes up quite often as well. And finally, we run SP Little Knight, which has tons of utility in this deck. With the Millennium engine, it helps dodge Nibiru, and it protects Sulfador from Effect Veiler or Infinite Impermanence. Let's now talk about tech options the deck can include. The first in-archetype pick is Citri. On the opponent's turn, she revives a Crystron from the grave and then performs a Synchro Summon. She adds extra layers of interaction, and helps protect Sulfador. For example, if Sulfador gets hit with Veiler or Imperm, Tristaros can chain and summon Citri, and Citri synchros into a level 7, dodging the negate entirely. Another option is Praesiatal, used for its graveyard effect to provide extra gas and push through interactions. Some lists experimented with Rose Nyx as well, because of its graveyard effect that summons a token, enabling niche plays. Though it didn't see much consistent play, it's still interesting. Then there's the Ion King Regulus, a searchable Omni-Negate that also turns a Crystron into a back row card, which Sulfador can then destroy. Regulus can be searched in 2 ways. Either through the Millennium engine into rank 8 sagas, or by using Klee Genius, since Tristaros summons 2 monsters at once, which easily enables Genius's search. Now let's talk about the more flexible and situational options you can run in the extra deck if you have space or want to customize for your needs. One fun, albeit more mean tier, pick is Invoked Mechaba. You can actually summon this card using Cyber Dragon Nova's effect, usually after your Nova gets Nibirued or otherwise removed. While not a common play, it does come up and can be surprisingly effective in the right situations. Next is Navy Dragon Mech, a level 9 machine synchro that's generally accessed via Citri if you decide to include her in your build. On summon, it provides a spot negate, which is great for interrupting telegraph plays. Then, if it gets destroyed, it lets you add a tuner from your graveyard to your hand. That means you can recover something like Tristaros for follow-up or even bring back a hand trap like Ash Blossom or Veiler to keep the pressure going. Satellite Warrior is another viable choice. He's summoned similarly to Baronne de Fleur, and while he may not be the go-to in faster formats, in slower meters where spot removal is more important, Satellite Warrior is quite solid. On summon, he can pop multiple cards, and he contributes significantly to OTK potential. Then there's Legacia, who you might recognize if you follow my Centurion guides. On summon, she lets you draw a card and then non-target destroy the highest ATK monster your opponent controls. It's a flashy and impactful effect, but compared to options like Baronne or Elescalitas, she's a bit more situational. Still, if you like her playstyle or want that bit of flair, she's a fun tech to include. Moving into the XYZ options, the first card I want to highlight is Vimana. This card has two effects that are both extremely useful in grind games. First, it can manipulate the attack of an opponent's monster and attach it as material if you have another XYZ in the grave. Then, it can also negate a monster effect by detaching two materials. While it's not something you summon turn 1, it's a great turn 3 follow-up, especially if your Infinity has already been cleared. And because it attaches materials, it synergizes perfectly with another powerful potential card we could run, Divine Arsenal AAZEUS. Zeus really needs no introduction. Whether you go into him directly after using Vimana, or just off the back of any other XYZ battle phase, Zeus gives you a full field wipe that can win games on the spot. The raw utility he provides makes him a must-consider in this deck, especially with how easily we can enable him thanks to our access to level 5s and consistent board presence. With quite the long deck discussion and profile out of the way, let's finally get into the combos, and afterward, we'll move on to the replays. As always, I'll stop yapping here and let the gameplay speak for itself. I'll chime in occasionally with some on-screen notes and commentary to highlight key decisions, interactions, or tech choices during the combos. Let's dive in.